Fort Detrick is an enormous complex. It has been for decades the center of American military research related to biology. Some of what's going on there is secret. Here I've got the quote from the Supreme Allied Command led by MacArthur. They wrote, this was a secret principle. This document was never published at the time. The value to the U.S. of Japanese biological weapons data is of such importance to national security as to far outweigh the value accruing from war crimes prosecutions.
Experiments on sheep, mosquitoes, and even civilians. About 85 miles southwest of Salt Lake City is the U.S. government's top-secret bioweapons lab. It's called the Dugway Proving Ground. The 77-year-old facility covers about 800,000 acres. That's just a little larger than the entire state of Rhode Island. And it tests some of the deadliest chemical, biological, radiological, and explosive hazards on Earth. Less famous than Area 51, Dugway dates all the way back to 1942, right in the middle of World War II.
The decisive battle of the war has begun.
The government needed a large area to test powerful weapons, eventually settling on this stretch of land in the Utah desert. Back then, the site was used to test everything from chemical sprays and flamethrowers to various antidotes and protective equipment, and even firebombing. After World War II, Dugway mostly shut down until the Korean War began in 1950. That's when the proving ground turned into what it is today, a permanent military base. In Dugway's first few decades, the base worked mostly on offensive weaponry, biological and chemical munitions designed to directly attack enemies.
Sampling devices positioned throughout the test area yield valuable information to chemical corps researchers.
The 1950s, for example, saw the launch of Operation Big Itch, an experiment that was testing weaponized fleas. The fleas weren't infected with any type of disease or agent, but experimenters were working with thousands of them, and the fleas were dropped in cluster bombs to gauge if they would survive the fall from an airplane. And this was only part one. Dugway launched a second experiment called Project Bellwether in the 1960s. Only this time, mosquitoes were injected with inert diseases, inert bacteria, and inert viruses. But get this, those mosquitoes were released upon several groups of human volunteers who were bitten again and again during the trials. And there are records dating back to the late 1950s, which describe experiments that used infected mosquitoes. And those are just two experiments known to the public. Exactly what goes on at Dugway is, well, pretty unclear. And that's not by accident. The area is intensely guarded. Remember that sheep incident? That marked the start of a worrisome track record. It happened when overhead planes spewed out the nerve agent into the wind, accidentally sending it into nearby farmland in Skull Valley. Within the next couple of days, farmers found thousands of sheep dead in their fields. The Army compensated the farmers and lent them bulldozers to bury the sheep. But the accident sparked a whole debate on the use of chemical weapons in warfare. Adding on to these questionable practices, a 1994 Senate hearing on veterans' health focused specifically on Dugway veterans and civilians. A report found that people at Dugway were exposed to biological and chemical simulants believed to be safe at the time, but that the Army had later stopped using many of them because they realized they were not as safe as previously believed.
In July 2019, however, research at Fort Detrick came to a halt after health authorities shut down its laboratories due to safety concerns. A CDC spokeswoman later confirmed that all research on select agents and toxins in biosafety level 3 and 4 laboratories were suspended. Inside the labs, the CDC found at least 6 violations of federal guidelines, including critical containment procedures. Moreover, the inventory of select agents in the lab was inaccurate. There were also leaks caused by a dysfunctional wastewater decontamination system, though the CDC claimed that the leaks were limited within the labs. The most suspicious part of the CDC inspection report was its large redactions, leaving the agents involved in the 2 breaches unidentified. The CDC cited national security reasons for not releasing further details. Carol Krim of Maryland's House of Delegates is among those who have questioned the lack of transparency over the health and safety risks posed by the military base. Over the years, Fort Detrick has been involved in several controversies. The most famous incident is the 2001 anthrax attack. In September 2001, mails containing anthrax were sent to U.S. government and media offices. The incident caused 5 deaths. The 2 main suspects were both former researchers at Fort Detrick. These incidents certainly deserve to be examined more